Ancient samurai codes demanded absolute obedience from all men, while women were completely forbidden from holding any weapons of war. Yet one strange figure emerged from the deep shadows of history to shatter every rule that governed this strict society. She was a woman who stepped onto the bloodstained battlefield when her very existence there was considered a serious crime. The strict world expected her to stay quietly inside the home and serve her family with grace and total submission. Instead, she bravely chose to wear heavy iron armor and ride a massive horse directly into the chaos of combat. Her famous name was Tomoe Gozen, and her incredible journey would challenge everything we know about power and human limits. This was absolutely not some magical fairy tale, but a harsh reality filled with brutal violence and very real danger. Many historical records tried to erase her completely because a victorious female warrior threatened the foundation of their proud culture. The brave men who fought beside her witnessed something terrifying and beautiful that they could never truly understand or explain. How could one lonely woman survive against thousands of angry elite soldiers who wanted her dead before the next dawn? Traditional warfare required extreme physical strength and decades of dedicated daily training just to wield a standard sword without failing. Society was built entirely upon a very strict hierarchy, where powerful men commanded armies and fragile women managed domestic duties. For a woman to enter the elite samurai class, she had to abandon her expected identity and embrace absolute danger. The cold military camps were harsh environments filled with loud, aggressive veterans who quickly dismissed anyone showing even slight weakness. Tomoe faced relentless, cruel judgment from hardened commanders who laughed at the thought of a female fighting alongside seasoned troops. She carried the terrible burden of knowing that one single mistake would prove every doubting man in the camp right. Cold isolation became her closest friend as she silently sharpened her long blade under the pale glow of the moon. Her painful inner struggle was deeply hidden behind a calm face that revealed nothing to the suspicious men around her. The dusty air was thick with tension because the ruling warlords were actively plotting against anyone disrupting their natural order. Would she slowly let this crushing psychological pressure break her spirit before the real enemy armies even arrived to attack? Ancient historical texts reveal that commanders rarely led charges themselves, but instead ordered lower-ranking soldiers into the deadly front lines. Suddenly, the massive wooden camp gates opened, and a striking figure slowly emerged through the thick morning fog upon horseback. She proudly wore spectacular armor trimmed with bright crimson cords that captured the early sunlight in a truly cinematic way. Her beautiful, long, dark hair flowed wildly in the harsh wind, while her piercing eyes scanned the vast opposing army. The advancing enemy forces paused their march completely stunned by the majestic presence of a lone female warrior standing tall. She bravely gripped a large curved naginata tightly with hands that looked too delicate to inflict such massive fatal damage. Absolute silence heavily covered the entire battlefield as thousands of seasoned fighters held their breath waiting for her next move. Her fierce, intense expression showed absolute determination, masking any hidden fears she might have felt deep within her pounding heart. The arrogant generals who mocked her only yesterday now watched with wide eyes as she confidently spurred her strong horse. Could this stunning, breathtaking entrance translate into actual victory, or would she fall instantly when the brutal slaughter finally began? Surviving brutal close combat required physical endurance that pushed human muscles far beyond normal tearing tissue to build lasting strength. Her secret training was not some fast magical montage, but years of brutal, exhausting repetition that left her constantly bleeding. She forcefully swung heavy wooden poles thousands of times daily until her soft palms turned into hard, cracked, thick calluses. Cruel instructors struck her repeatedly to teach her how to absorb pain without ever breaking her focused, calm battle stance. She slowly learned anatomy entirely, practically memorizing the exact spots where a blade could bypass heavy layered steel protective armor. Intense horseback riding became second nature as she mastered the difficult art of shooting arrows while moving at full speed. Every single night she sat in total darkness questioning if her tired body could endure another sunrise of absolute agony. There were absolutely no special tricks here, only pure dedication fueled by a desperate desire to prove her endless worth. The difficult transformation from a quiet girl into a deadly killer required sacrificing her entire normal, comfortable civilian life forever. But when the heavy wooden practice swords were finally replaced with real sharpened steel, would her expensive training actually hold? Many young soldiers who perform perfectly during practice completely freeze when they smell the metallic scent of real fresh blood. Her terrifying first real engagement happened inside a dense, muddy forest where visibility was low and danger hid everywhere constantly. Suddenly, an angry enemy soldier rushed from the thick bushes screaming wildly, with a raised spear aimed at her chest. Time strangely seemed to aggressively slow down as her racing heartbeat pounded loudly against her heavy protective iron chest plate. She absolutely did not use supernatural magic, but relied purely on muscle memory, stepping quickly aside to deflect his thrust. With one single brutally fluid motion, she swung her blade downwards, slicing cleanly through his entirely unprotected neck and collarbone. Thick, warm red liquid sprayed across her pale face, instantly changing her from an innocent observer into an active killer. She slowly paused for a brief haunting second, staring down at the lifeless body, while her hands trembled very slightly. There was absolutely no glory in this messy, brutal moment, only the heavy, horrific realization of what survival truly meant. Now that she had finally crossed this dark psychological line, would she break down or transform into something much worse? Real historical battlefield sword fighting is rarely elegant because it heavily relies on leverage momentum and desperately exploiting tiny mistakes. Tomoe quickly realized she could never ever match the raw physical pushing power of male opponents in a locked clash. Instead, she actively developed a highly efficient lethal style that focused entirely on speed, precision, and maintaining constant forward motion. Effectively using the extra reach of her long, curved weapon, she kept heavy attackers at a safe distance while striking. When an angry enemy foolishly lunged forward, missing his target, she efficiently cut his exposed joints, leaving him completely paralyzed. She was incredibly brutal but perfectly calculating, never wasting valuable energy on flashy spins or cinematic jumps during real combat. Grown men fell around her like cut wheat as she systematically dismantled entire enemy units through pure superior tactical geometry. Her calm breathing remained terrifyingly steady, while older seasoned veterans gasped for air amid the chaotic, horrifying crush of battle. The muddy battlefield essentially became her deadly canvas, where every precise strike painted a bloody masterpiece of grim, violent survival. But when personal physical skill reaches its maximum absolute limit, what happens when leadership and strategic command become strictly necessary? Historically, massive armies collapsed completely not from lacking weapons, but simply because soldiers quickly lost faith in their chosen commanders. Commanding proud men in ancient times required dominating them, psychologically proving you were fundamentally superior in both strategy and violence. As Tomoe slowly gathered her own loyal unit, many traditional officers actively tried to undermine her authority behind her back. They maliciously sent her squads into extremely dangerous positions, hoping she would quickly fail and restore their fragile male egos. Instead, she consistently expertly used the difficult terrain to her absolute advantage, leading successful ambushes that totally destroyed enemy camps. Her loyal men began to worship her, fiercely recognizing that her tactical genius kept them alive, while other leaders failed. She almost never raised her voice to shout orders, preferring short, sharp commands that cut through the deafening battle noise. The profound, deep respect she earned was not freely given, but paid for in blood, sweat, and countless severed heads. She had now successfully rewritten the rigid rules of leadership, proving that true authority comes from capability, not simply gender. With thousands of troops now blindly following her every single command, how would the powerful, terrified elite generals finally react? Dark psychological terror often wins major battles long before the first sharp arrow is ever drawn from a leather quiver. Exaggerated rumors about Tomoe spread wildly across the entire country, painting her as an unstoppable demon who drank human blood. We absolutely know she was just human, but the terrifying stories intentionally planted paralyzing fear into the minds of enemies. Weak opposing generals reportedly suffered intense panic attacks simply upon hearing that her specific banner was spotted near their borders. She intelligently used this growing reputation, deliberately wearing a fierce, menacing face mask to completely hide her natural human expressions. When she fiercely charged, some enemy platoons actually dropped their weapons and fled rather than face her incredibly swift blade. The terrifying mere sight of her distinct armor sparkling darkly under the stormy clouds shattered their fragile military defensive formations. Yet alone inside her private tent, she sat silently, wiping the thick blood off her sword with exhausted, trembling hands. The incredibly immense psychological weight of playing a feared monster was slowly draining away every last piece of her humanity. If her terrifying dark legend became larger than her actual human life, could she ever safely escape this bloody destiny? Official history is almost always written exclusively by the ultimate winners, who happily delete anything that contradicts their glorious narratives. Following a massive, catastrophic defeat, her beloved lord ordered her to leave the battlefield because he wanted a proud death. He refused to let the honorable history books show that a woman defended his fragile life during his final moments. She reluctantly obeyed his heartbreaking final command, escaping into the misty forest, while he committed traditional ritual suicide completely alone. From this exact moment, the legendary warrior Tomoe Gozen completely vanishes from all reliable official recorded historical documents, basically forever. Some old stories claim she was eventually captured and forced into a humiliating marriage by a victorious rival samurai commander. Other quiet whispers suggest she quickly became a devoted nun, seeking holy forgiveness for all the lives she violently ended. There are absolutely no remaining graves or solid artifacts to prove which hidden path she actually took into the shadows. The powerful men who survived desperately needed her forgotten, so their strict patriarchal society could quickly return to total normalcy. Did she truly surrender her warrior spirit, or did she secretly orchestrate her own brilliant, quiet escape from written history? Ancient cultures intentionally blurred the delicate line between historical truth and mythological fiction to control how generations perceived basic reality. Skeptics argue that Tomoe was merely a fictional character created to make her defeated lord look significantly more incredibly tragic. Yet weapons matching her exact physical proportions and unique combat style have been carefully uncovered inside deep ancient burial sites. The brutal, undeniable truth is that a woman fighting among elite samurai deeply terrified the established fragile ancient political order. Whether she lived exactly as described or represents thousands of forgotten female fighters, her bloody legacy remains fiercely, undeniably powerful. She confidently stands today as a brilliant cinematic symbol of ultimate rebellion against a society designed to forcefully crush her. The sharp sword she swung cut through historical flesh, but also permanently severed the heavy chains of strict traditional expectations. We constantly tell her intense story because humanity secretly loves those who boldly break impossible rules to achieve pure freedom. Her mysterious ghost still rides across the misty Japanese mountains, reminding us that some strong spirits can never be caged. When official history purposely tries to bury truth, how many other legendary women are still silently waiting for modern discovery?